All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to San Bruno, California. We're here at the YouTube headquarters. My name is Julia Silva, and I work on I'm Remarkable on the core team here at Google. I've been working at Google now for a little over 3 years. I actually do I'm Remarkable as a 20% project. This is a side project of mine. But my core role is I work as a diversity program specialist, really focus on creating engagement opportunities for communities that are traditionally underrepresented in tech. So hopefully that they will want to apply to Google and come join us over here. I also have Grace with me.
Hello, my name is Grace Kim. I, together with Julia, work 20% of my time with the I Am Remarkable team. And when I'm not with I Am Remarkable, my core role is with the Tech University Programs team. And so my team and I actually focus on managing the relationship between Google and different student organizations, career centers, faculty on your university campuses. And we bring information sessions as well as panels, workshops, developmental opportunities, really to help you get a sense of what a slice of Google life looks like, and also to provide you with some tools and tips to develop your professional skills, as well as your technical proficiency. And then we also are tasked with connecting you with the right opportunities so that you can one day join us as interns and full-time engineers.
Yes. And today we're actually talking about I Am Remarkable, right? And this is the first I Am Remarkable YouTube Live. So very excited to be here. And so what is I Am Remarkable, right? This actually started as a 20% project by two women named Anna, ironically. And they were based out of our London offices. And they developed this initiative actually out of another Google program called Stretch. So at Google, we love to offer opportunities internally for you to grow professionally and personally. So this was offered as a course. And in that course, they had to do an exercise where they had to write down all of the things that they were proud of and things that made them remarkable. And a light bulb kind of went off. And they realized, you know what? This has legs. I want to create something out of this. And so this started back in 2015 as an initiative that really focuses on empowering women and underrepresented groups to speak more openly about their accomplishments in the workplace, but really in every aspect of their lives.
Right.
And within that, they're trying to challenge the gender modesty norms that are often placed on women in society. And so it's a really unique initiative. Again, everyone who works on this actually works on it as a 20% project. We all do this out of the passion that we have for this, because it is really critical that we learn how to self-promote and how to kind of showcase our unique value and the contributions that we bring to the table. And I will say that when we do these workshops, initially, this was for women only.
Right.
However, it's really open to anyone. We realize that the benefits are truly vast. And those benefits, again, include controlling your narrative, controlling how you're perceived by others, really taking and reclaiming your story.
Yeah.
And I mentioned underrepresented groups before, and I just want to clarify that what I mean by that is differing from the majority, right, in any way. So that can be in terms of gender, race, ethnicity, cultural background, sexual orientation, whatever it may be. But it can cause this feeling of maybe, you feel like a fraud, or you feel like you're just like that imposter syndrome is really big.
Oh, yeah, it's everywhere.
Right? So we're really trying to challenge that. And so this is definitely something that is available to all.
Right.
So not just women only.
No, and we are now bringing it to students for the first time this year, to university campuses and
Very
to all
exciting.
of you through YouTube Live today, because we realize a lot of these modesty norms that Julia mentioned are ingrained in us at a really young age. And so our hope by sharing this with university students is that we will share sort of the research with you, we'll tell you about the structure of the workshop and all of this, and the hope is then that you will recognize that these social norms exist, and then you can break them before you enter the workplace so that you'll have even more opportunities to advance and progress in your careers, and also just to have more fulfilling professional lives, because you've already kind of created a comfortable way of talking about your accomplishments in a way that feels authentic.
I really wish I had this back in college.
Oh my gosh, me too.
Honestly, I only took this workshop 2 years ago, and it totally changed my life.
Yeah.
But had I started way earlier, I think it would have changed my confidence, just the way I saw myself and my value again. So I love that we're doing this for students now.
Yeah, and it's so important too, because you realize, or I realized after taking this workshop, that there are some stark differences between how you talk about your accomplishments in the workplace versus how you are evaluated and validated for your accomplishments when you are a student. So I will start by saying I was a pretty good student growing up, but it's different because as a student, you are evaluated by just the work that you do individually. So for the most part, you study on your own, you study independently for projects and for exams, and then if you do a good job, you are recognized for the job that you did, and you get, an A or whatever it might be. In the workplace, it's completely different.
Very different.
You can't just do your work and do it well. You also have to really practice what we say is a muscle of self-promotion and advocating for yourself, especially at a company that's as large as Google. Everyone does a really good job, right? Everyone works really hard. Everyone's super competent, and they are very passionate about their work. And so it becomes even more important for you to be able to say, okay, great, we're all wonderful. We're all remarkable. Here's my unique contributions that I bring to my team. Or here's what I've been able to accomplish over time. And being able to articulate that, for me, has been a really difficult practice. And I think it kind of traces back all the way to the way that I was raised. And so Julia and I kind of have this in common, where we have parents who, immigrated from other countries. My family is from Korea. Actually, I was born there as well, but I moved here with my family when I was 10 months old. And so a lot of my schooling has happened here in the States. But I had this sort of dissonance that I experienced growing up, where my parents, coming from a collectivist society, very much thought about collectivist attitudes in how I did my work and how I went about my life. So at home, I got this messages of, work in a group, be part of the core team, don't kind of deviate from the norm that we've all agreed to. We're all in this together kind of mentality. But then at school, I would hear teachers say, oh, we're trying to develop leaders. We want you all to participate. We want you to raise your hand and be that person who's sort of leading the rest of the pack. And it just felt like I was getting two different messages. And for a very long time, it felt very uncomfortable because of that.
Oh, I know that feeling well. So my dad is from Brazil. My mom is from Portugal. First generation American, which is very exciting. But because of that experience, similar to yours, like I always had a really hard time, first of all, fitting in and finding my community. Like I'm always the other wherever I am, but also around this idea of talking about your accomplishments, right? And self-promotion, that was never seen as a thing to do.
Right.
This is seen as almost tacky and taboo in my cultures. And so it's ingrained in me from a young age. And I think that this is something that isn't unique to us, right? There is this social perception around self-promotion and what it means. And so what we spent a lot of time on in this workshop is showcasing that this idea of like, oh, it's coming off as bragging, right? I always have a hard time with this. Like, oh, I don't want to brag. But it's not bragging if it's based on facts. I love this line. Yeah. It's like the one thing that stood out to me the first time that I took this, because it's so true.
Yeah.
Right? Like if I achieve something, I accomplished like a goal that I had set out, or I worked really hard on a project, or I spent 40 hours volunteering, like these are all factual things. Right. These are things that I can point back to. And it's absolutely okay for us to be, again, more comfortable talking about this, but it's not easy, right? No, like this is a muscle. You mentioned like we need to flex this. We need to constantly put this into practice because it's not just as easy as saying like, oh, talk about yourself. Right. We're really trying to break that perception as well. It's a really big component.
Definitely. And as students, you have actually a lot of opportunities to self-promote that you may recognize. One of those being resumes, right? And I work on the university programs team, so we spend a lot of time talking about resumes and how all of you can describe your different accomplishments on a resume to ensure that recruiting teams can really understand comprehensively what you bring to the table. And so if you've attended the resume workshops we've done through YouTube Live, you'll know we always say, as much as you can, try to quantify your impact, right? And what that looks like is instead of saying, I created a mobile app, that's wonderful. Give us some more context, right? So instead, I used Java to create a mobile app that had 40% more accuracy with location data tracking, whatever it might be, right? And attaching those numbers, those metrics are really powerful because, as we said, you can't really deny facts, right? Data is data. If that's what you accomplished, that is the result that you had, and it's because of something that you did or you created, you have to let us know. And so your resume does ultimately tell your full story, we hope, because then our recruiting teams can say, oh, wow, this student has accomplished a ton, or they have the technical proficiency we're looking for a software engineer on this team. And then they can very easily match you with the right opportunities that we have here at the company. So all really important things.
Again, why I wish I had this back in college.
Me too.
But I think let's give a little highlight of how the workshop is actually broken out, because I think it gives a little more context. So when we're doing these I'm Remarkable workshops, we actually start by giving the background that we shared, but then we spend a bit of time on research, right? So we go into kind of why this is important and why we need to, again, practice this and challenge those social perceptions. And I'll share a bit of the research now, because I think it's super interesting and important to realize that this idea that women specifically shouldn't self-promote, because it's like negative context around it.
Right.
There's a study that showed that women and men, but women don't like when other women self-promote. And the study said that women found self-promoting women to be less competent, less hireable, and less socially attractive than their self-promoting male peers. And the cultural expectation to be modest is actually more heavily defended by women than by men.
Wow.
Right? And let's take a pause, because this is actually, I've been on the side of this, right? I'm not innocent. I'll share a story. So I, when I first joined Google, I actually was on the sales team. And as you can imagine, sales is very competitive. And I was one of 3 women on the team. But when I joined the team, my director was really adamant that he was going to hire more women, because he's had teams on the past that the highest performers were always women. So he was very dedicated to diversity. And I was like, yes, like him, I'm here for it.
Right.
And a couple weeks later, a new woman joined the team. She's introducing herself and she's sharing off some of her statistics and her past successes, and, overachieve on quota 150%. And I distinctly remember in that moment thinking, oh gosh, why is she bragging? Like, I was that person. I have fallen into this category myself. And it's weird, because I think back and I say, well, if it was a male peer, would I have said the same?
No.
I feel like I would have been like, oh, he's so accomplished.
Right. So bold.
So bold. Yeah. But this goes to that point that this like cultural expectation, oftentimes like we may heavily defend it.
Yeah. And I think it's important too. I mean, what you did in that moment was to really recognize your own unconscious bias.
Exactly.
And we all have these, right? We have a really great unconscious bias busting workshop that we lead here at Google. And I think more than 80% of our company has actually taken this, because it really does impact how you perceive other people, perhaps how other people perceive you, and being able to recognize, oh my goodness, like I have this bias. For example, in the same situation that you shared, for me, it's when I see somebody else who is more similar to me, right? Someone who perhaps is also a woman, perhaps also a Korean woman, and I see them self-promoting, for some reason I feel more some type of way, and I wonder, and I'm still trying to uncover and unpack why that might be, but I think part of it might be that I recognize if I were to be in their shoes, I totally would not have done the same. But then I have to think, like, why not? If those were the accomplishments that I made or that she made, why wouldn't we talk openly about them? Because that can only serve us in a positive way.
So we're getting at the idea of changing and being aware of these biases, right? And knowing that they exist and that this social perception around self-promotion is true. But again, we're hoping with this initiative that bringing awareness will at least impact some sort of change. And we want that change to happen, because we don't want to miss out. We don't want to fall behind our self-promoting peers. Like this is really critical. And another study actually shows that men will go up for a promotion when they've satisfied 60% of the minimum qualifications. However, women, we wait until we've satisfied 100%.
I'm guilty of this.
Before we even try. Right? Like, I've done this too. I the job that I'm in now, I definitely didn't meet most of the minimum requirements, and I hesitated, but thank goodness I went for it. But this is actually something that happens. I was talking to a woman the other day at an event, and she was really interested in applying to Google and was chatting with me about it. And I said, well, what role are you interested in? She said, oh, there's this role, but I don't meet all of the minimum qualifications. Immediately I put my I'm Remarkable hat on. Wait, what do you do now? Like, talk to me. She was doing the exact same role at another company. But she had this limiting belief of herself, and she was kind of hesitant to apply. And so that's something, again, we really need to get out of this mindset, because we don't want to fall behind those self-promoting peers.
Right. No, it's so important to recognize this and to internalize it too, and catch yourself in those moments when you do hesitate yourself, like, oh my goodness, okay, this is a thought that I had, acknowledge it, be okay with it, and then act on the action that you should be doing instead.
And it's important that we do this.
Yep.
Do you know why?
Why?
We need more diversity.
We do indeed.
Right?
Yep.
And companies benefit from diversity.
Yep.
This is known. This is actually a really important topic, especially here at Google, in the tech industry as a whole. Right? This is my day in and day out, the job that I do. And some of those benefits include just overperforming. So companies that have more women board directors actually outperform other companies by 53%.
That's significant.
Significant. Yeah. And when it shows, right, like when we're at the table, when we have that seat at the table, when we're not just on the menu,
right.
but we're at that table, we overperform. We are leaders. We bring ideas and innovation and collaboration and all of these things that are critical for a company to continue to develop and, better build products for their users.
Right. And then financially, also there are benefits, right? So businesses who are in the top quartile for ethnic diversity and gender diversity actually outperform, or they have more, 35% more financial returns than the industry average, right? The median,
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
So it's really important, again, too, in the space that we're working in, at Google at large, more and more companies are breaking rank and revealing their diversity data. And we all acknowledge there is a lot of work to do, particularly in the tech industry. But again, step one is acknowledging this, and then the work that we do on our teams, and then also the work that many Googlers do. And this I'm Remarkable initiative in and of itself, too, is working very much to combat those realities and to create a company and a culture that can be more inclusive and more representative.
Right. I mean, think about Google. We are a global company.
Right.
We have a global user base. Like, how are we going to continue to innovate and develop incredible products if we ourselves aren't reflective of that global community?
That's exactly right.
And I will say it's incredible to see just the amount of passion and intention behind a lot of this work, because we know that this is critical.
Right.
This is like business critical at this point. We shared a couple of the stats, but even outside of like business critical, other benefits of diversity are creativity, flexibility, innovation, having different perspectives at the table. That's critical, right? There's a great story about YouTube, actually. And at the beginning, when they were trying to upload the videos, they realized they had like a 10% error. And they couldn't figure out why. Right? They're thinking, what's going on? Why are some of these uploading upside down? And they realized that everyone on the team was right-handed. So when everyone's taking their selfies right-handed, the video is going to upload a certain way. However, for those folks that are left-handed, the videos were upside down. That's a perfect example of just not having a diverse perspective at the table. We fix this, obviously. But it's just like a great point I like to show that like there are plenty of instances where just having a different person at the table would have made a huge difference. Right. So what about the actual workshop? Like, do you want to give them a little insight into what they would do when they're in there experiencing this?
So after we would have shared all the research we just shared, we would transition then into an opportunity for all of you to celebrate yourselves and to reflect on all of the things that make all of you really remarkable. So we encourage you to take out a piece of paper and actually just spend a solid 7 minutes. Put on a timer, make sure you fill the whole 7 minutes, and write down all of the things that you were really proud of, right? And I will say, when I was first doing this exercise, and I think Julia had a similar experience, I got to my third or fourth thing, and then I just hit this wall.
Literally hit a wall.
I was like, that's all. Those are the 4 things that make me remarkable. And this is a voice that I think a lot of people who take this workshop will say that they also hear, thinking like, oh, that thing is just not that remarkable, or it's not remarkable enough. Or I really think that these are the only things that I've done that I'm really, truly proud of. And so we encourage you, we challenge you to actually consider yourself in all of the different contexts in which you live, right? So think all the way back to maybe your childhood. Think about you within the context of your family. Think about you within the context of your peer groups, perhaps your classmates, maybe in the workplace or the internships if you've started that part of your academic journey already. And really just write down all of the things that you feel are unique to you, the contributions that you have made, and what you're really proud of. And something else that we always call out is, it's maybe easier to say things that are attributes, right? So, I'm remarkable, or Julia's remarkable because she has beautiful hair. She does. But we want for this exercise to actually go one step further, one level deeper, and to instead think about the things, perhaps the things that you do, or perhaps the things that you have done that you're really proud of. So instead of the hair, I'm remarkable because I have great hair, perhaps instead saying, I'm remarkable because when my friend was failing her chemistry class, I tutored her for an entire semester and she ended the semester with an A-, right? So you're right. Yeah. Thank you. So these types of things that over time you feel like, wow, I've made a difference in this way. And these are my unique things that only I've experienced, or I've experienced at least in the way that you have. And we want you to spend those solid 7 minutes writing all those things down.
Let it flow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I always tell people in when I'm doing these workshops, like there's that little voice that you mentioned, the voice in your head that's saying, oh, is this remarkable enough? Like that idea of comparing it to someone else, or comparing it to what someone else would think.
Yeah.
We really want you to stay away from that, because at the end of the day, this is for you. This is what makes you unique as a human, as a holistic person. So, professional, personal statements are really critical, because I think that's, again, it just expands the scope, and not just about like you as a student, as a straight A student, but you as a varsity volleyball player, or an artist, or a musician,
or a daughter, or a sister.
Exactly. Everything that makes you remarkable, because it's all really important.
Yeah, totally. And so after that part, actually, we go into a surprise part of the whole workshop.
No one knows that this is going to happen when we walk in.
We don't mention it until really this point of the workshop. And it is that we will actually have everybody share their statements in front of the rest of the group.
You have to come up, stand up, read everything.
Exactly. And actually, this is probably the real magic moment in the whole workshop. The research, of course, resonates with many people. The reflective exercise is really important because you're all really busy, especially as students. You go from one activity to the next. You rarely have that time to sit down and think about all the things that you've actually done. And it's so important to do that. So now you have the opportunity not only to reflect on those things, but also to share it with everybody else. And so how it works in the workshop is you have each person stand up. They will read, depending on how many people are in the room, either the entire sheet, which again is unfiltered because we didn't tell you that you were sharing it before you actually wrote those things down. And that's a really important piece.
We don't want it to impact like what you would write. That's why it's intentionally a surprise.
Exactly right. And so once the person shares either the whole page, or one personal and then perhaps one academic in your case accomplishment, everyone else in the room claps wildly for you. And I just love that. Gosh, the feeling that you have when everyone in the room is just celebrating you for your accomplishments and what you've done. Sometimes people get tearful and they cry for you, or cry alongside you, or you cry. It can get really emotional. And you've done this many times.
For sure. And I actually, when I first did this workshop, I cried. I stood up there. I remember I read like the third thing, and I was because I never did this. I never stood up in front, and it's an overwhelming emotion.
Totally.
But it's the aha moment. It is the magic moment, and it's why I love to do these workshops, because I learn so much about the people in the room, right? And even if you do this with colleagues or peers or your friends, you learn things you didn't even know about. And it is really the special moment, because we're getting into that idea again, the social perception. So you hearing from people when they're reading, like you're receptive to it, you're excited for them, you're cheering them on. And then you as an individual being up there and having that moment to just shine and say like, this is what makes me remarkable. It brings it all together.
No, it totally does. And so after that part of the exercise, actually, we do kind of wrap things up a little bit. We come back together as a group, and we go into a time of discussion, because we've covered a lot of material now. We've done a couple different exercises, and we want this to be as much as possible a back and forth, right? Where
very
this
interactive.
Is very much, interactive. We ask a lot of questions to all of you as we're going through the workshop as well. And so, we go right into the discussion questions.
Yeah, and a lot of the time, I first ask, like, how did it feel to write it down, right? I think getting into that mindset of, again, like practicing this and getting into the exercise of pause, reflect, write down what makes you remarkable. We initially start with asking those types of questions. Sometimes if people maybe have journaled before, it's a little easier, but most of the time it's hard. It's challenging for people. Then we ask, like, how did it feel to read it aloud? Right? How did it feel to hear from others? How did it feel to hear from your peers? And this is when that group discussion really takes place. And again, people kind of get it.
Yeah.
Right. It clicks for them. I know that the other piece is really providing like follow-up exercises is really critical, because we don't want people to just go to our workshop and then leave and then that's it. Right. Again, this is a muscle. You need to flex it, continue to build on it. I still have a hard time doing this, right? I've been doing it for 2 years and it's still like a little hesitation. But I push through it and I know why it's important. Yeah. So we give a bunch of exercises, right?
Yeah, and there are 3 to 4 that I want to share with all of you today. So one of them is called Remarkable Wednesdays. And this is your opportunity with the cohort of friends that you may have taken this workshop with. Or maybe you can just find friends and family, people you trust, to do this exercise. But it's literally dedicating a time every single Wednesday, whether to meet up in person or perhaps we just have an email chain or maybe a text chain, and actually practice this where every Wednesday you say to that group something you accomplished, something that you're proud of that week. And the more you do this, the more comfortable you'll feel. And I think, Julia, you do
I actually do this. Yeah. I do. Yes. I have a friend chat that I created, and I love that. It's great. It's fun because every Wednesday I'm in there like, hey, what are your remarkable statements for the week? And it's a great way for me to stay connected with my friends. Yeah. I moved here from New York, so a lot of them are still back there. But it gets, again, into that mindset of constantly bringing awareness to this. And it's kind of the highlight of my week, right? I just get to hear all these great things. You get to keep each other in contact and up to date on like all of the things that we're doing
in their lives. Yeah. No, that's so important. So Remarkable Wednesdays is one thing we challenge and encourage all of you to do with your friends. Another one is to actually track your achievements. And this is something, probably one of my biggest takeaways from this workshop, is to get into the practice of actually writing down everything that I accomplish each week. So whether it's a reiteration of what I shared in my Remarkable Wednesdays, or it's just, for 10 minutes every Friday, writing down the things that I've done for that week, that has become so crucial for me for 2 reasons. One, if I'm having a bum day and I'm like, I just didn't get through my entire checklist, or I didn't get to do everything that I had set out to do, I can look back on that list and remind myself of, oh, you know what? Actually, I did kind of a lot this week, right? And it's sort of that feel-good moment. And the second thing is that when it comes time for performance ratings, which is the time we're in right now,
I was about to say it, but yeah.
So you have this whole running doc of things that you've done, and it makes that process of putting down your accomplishments on paper for the promotion committees to see so much easier.
So much easier. Yeah. So I use a Google Doc.
Yeah, obviously. Perfect. Yes,
Google. And I do this. I add in projects or like even little magic moments or snippets, or if someone sent me a great email, like congratulating me on something, save those because you want that like archive of material that you can use for your resumes, right? While you're trying to apply for a job, or again, performance calibration. If you're having a bum day, absolutely puts a smile on your face. So please definitely track it. That was something that I learned out of this workshop, and I still do to this day.
Right. And then for all of you as students too, you can take the stuff that you've added to that list and then revamp your resume at the end of every quarter or at the end of every semester, so that by the time you go to the next career fair, you apply for that next opportunity, you have all those accomplishments written down. So the last thing that we'll say, sort of as an action item for all of you, is to check out our website. If you go to g.co/IamRemarkable, you'll find all kinds of great content. So some of the literature that we shared with you today, some videos actually that you can check out as well, and also an opportunity for you to register and become a facilitator yourself, trained by a Googler.
Do it.
And it's just a really fantastic opportunity. And we want this message of I Am Remarkable to spread. So bring it to your communities, bring it to your student groups, carve out this time and chance to celebrate everything that really makes you remarkable.
Yeah, and I've already heard there are a couple of universities that they're getting on this. We're training folks, we're training students.
Yep.
It's growing, it's spreading. Actually, to give a couple stats, we had 200 participants in 2016. As of today, we've had 22,000. Wow. 22,000 participants in over 50 countries.
Yeah.
We have over 1,100 facilitators. 400 are Googlers. The rest are external. Right. So this is absolutely meant to be for all of you to get involved with, because that's how we're going to continue to spread the word.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for joining.